Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Muslim Marriage Podcast, where we talk about healthy relationships from a Muslim lens. I'm Zahra Hassan.
And I'm AJ, and let's get started.
Let's get started. This week's episode is coming again from the Muslim Marriage subreddit. A young sister says, he wants me to remove my profile picture from all social media. Very interesting. All right, let's get into it. She says, Assalamu alaikum. My husband and I had a conversation about social media earlier today. He came to me and told me that something has been bothering him. He goes on to say that he doesn't like how I have a profile picture on my social media. I was confused. Who doesn't have a profile picture? I thought he was joking at first, but then realized he wasn't. He was serious, so I told him that I wouldn't without good reason. His reason is that he doesn't want men coming across my social media, but I'm private on all platforms. Basically, the whole, why are you showing yourself to other men talk. He has Instagram and he only follows family and friends. I have all my friends from college and even high school, so why would I remove my profile picture? I asked him what made him start thinking about this, and he said that his sister, who recently got married, removed her profile picture. I told my best friend about the situation and she agreed that it was a bit weird. She told me to consider it though if it would make him happier or more comfortable. I do want to make my husband happy, but why should a profile picture be of concern? I appreciate everyone who gave me genuine advice or constructive criticism. Your honesty gave me good reasons on why to remove it, and I wasn't aware that you could get evil eye or shirk through social media. Jazaa K'Allah Khayr. So
Is that the edit?
that's the edit. I forgot to
Okay.
say that was the edit. So it looks like the sister eventually removed it.
Yeah, I mean, like
Spoiler alert.
that would have been my answer as well. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Mm-hmm.
The husband can ask the wife to not leave the house.
Yeah.
It's the same. It's the same thing.
Yeah. Honestly, yeah. So
Yeah.
it's exactly what we were speaking about. I think a couple weeks ago when we were talking about a sister who was asking, uh, her potential whether or not he had a provider instinct,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we had to explain that you can't ask from other people what it is that you're not able to provide. That he will provide against his instincts because that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordains.
Mm-hmm.
So it's difficult for him to provide 100%, to hand over his whole paycheck in order to fulfill their financial needs, but he does it because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks him.
Yeah.
Similarly, one of the rights of the husband is that we obey him.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you have a right over me that I obey you.
Mm-hmm.
As long as it's something that's halal.
Yeah.
And that includes social media. So if you were to ask me, you haven't asked me, but if you were to ask me to change any of my social media presence, I would just have to be like, all right, I guess that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The reason she gave was her friends from college and her family are on the social media.
Yeah.
And she doesn't remove her profile picture because, like, I guess they wouldn't recognize her anymore or something.
Yeah.
But, like, they would know her name.
Yeah, but it's the okay, so let's talk about social media in general, right? Because this question isn't actually about social media. It feels like it's about social media,
Yeah.
but it's not actually about social media.
It's about autonomy.
Autonomy. Exactly. It's about autonomy. As adults who are used to doing what we want to do, like all of us, both men and women who are used to doing what we want to do since we became adults, it's very difficult for somebody who is not your parent to come, and usually very close in age to you, sometimes younger, and I'm just looking over to the side, to tell you this is what you're gonna do now. It's very difficult. It's not easy at all.
Yeah.
There is a reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the hadith came from the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that if a woman fasts, prays Ramadan, fasts Ramadan, prays, pays her zakat, and I believe guards her chastity, obeys her husband. And I might be wrong in one of those parameters, but generally one of the parameters is definitely obeys her husband,
Mm-hmm.
she can enter Jannah from any gate that she wants. There's a reason for that.
Yeah.
The reason is because it's not easy,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
It's very, very hard. In the same way that it's very hard for men to have to provide, like for you to have to go out every day and be the one who is taking care of all of our financial needs,
Mm-hmm.
and who's fulfilling all of the other list on that list of obligations.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that you have more obligations than we do, actually,
Yeah.
on some of the lists according to the scholars. So for you to have to fulfill all of those obligations is not easy.
Mm-hmm.
In the same way that this is also not easy. But
Yeah.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who created us both, said this is the way it is. So I obey not to make you happy, but I obey because that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told me to do.
Absolutely.
Right. So that's the perspective that I would hold. Therefore, the advice that I always give to the clients, that I give to sisters, Muslim sisters who are getting married to Muslim men, choose very, very, very carefully.
Mm-hmm.
Choose your husband very carefully, because there are definitely people who will take advantage of this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you want to choose somebody who fears Allah. When he's asking you to do something, somebody who's conscious and fears Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and won't go beyond those boundaries.
Yeah.
Right. So and in reality, you have never asked me anything that I felt like was infringing on my autonomy.
Mm-hmm.
Alhamdulillah. I'm pretty sure if you started asking me about my social media, I would get pretty defensive immediately.
Yeah.
But the outcome would be that I'd eventually have to do what makes sense that you would want.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that's the short answer. That's the short, long answer. Does that make sense?
The problem with autonomy,
yeah,
or people's sense of autonomy,
mm-hmm.
is that they think they have more autonomy than they actually do.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And this is also a problem for non-religious people,
Mm-hmm.
because they think that if they deny everyone else's requests or orders of them,
Mm-hmm.
that they're in charge.
Yeah.
But they're still bound to gravity.
Oh, yeah.
They still have to breathe to live. They still have to eat. Where's the autonomy in that? Right?
Yeah, but I agree with what you're saying, but they want even the little...
So, like, if you're going to already obey
mm-hmm.
Allah's laws on that,
mm-hmm.
then what's this next step over?
Yeah.
And obeying his commands on this.
Yeah, absolutely. It's alhamdulillah, that's the beauty of Islam, is that it makes it so that you don't have to you're not subservient to any human being in this dunya.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why many people in positions of power have difficulty with Islam, because it removes the power from their hands and puts it back to the power in the hands of the public, right? It makes it so that we're not subservient to anyone except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but you are subservient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Mm-hmm.
So what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks us to do is what we do. And so you have to be within that wise, right? So you have to be, therefore, when it comes to choosing your partner, both men and women, because none of the list of obligations on the men's side and the list of obligations on the women's side, none of them are easy.
Mm-hmm.
So for both men and women, it's wise to choose somebody who will not take advantage of what it is that they can ask of you.
Yeah.
And who fears Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala of what they do ask of you. So again, this question was about social media, but it's not about social media. It could have easily been about anything else. Like I hear this question from, sometimes a sister will say to me, he tells me not to visit my family so much.
Yeah.
Right, which is very painful. That's a painful ask.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes that situation has other underlying issues, right? In terms of the husband, if he's asking his wife not to see her family, that usually comes with other issues that go beyond the scope of this episode.
Yeah.
Sometimes it'll come from her husband asking her not to work.
Mm-hmm.
It'll come from asking her just a number of different things that can be more serious than social media.
Yeah.
That's why it's so, and I've said this 4 times already, I'll say it a 5th time. it's so important to choose the man who has this power, who has this ability, very, very carefully. Very
Yeah.
carefully, yeah. Okay, so now let's pretend it is about social media. Let's talk a little bit about social media in general. What are your thoughts in that regard?
I think social media is a vanity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, definitely. I mean, it was designed for a specific purpose. It now goes beyond the scope of that purpose, and it definitely has some plus sides we've seen over the last 2 years. It can be a real asset to the people and the population.
Yeah.
But it also has its downsides and its negatives. In terms of your own personal account, if you're married or you're not married, it's the way that I always recommend people think about it is that in two ways: in the benefit risk in this world and also in the next world.
Yeah.
When it comes to the next world, your social media accounts, the things that we've written down, are going to be evidences either for us or against us on Yom Al Qiyamah. We all know this. So just to participate on social media with a level of God consciousness.
Yeah.
Right. But if we think about in this world, right, in 2025, there is now the advent of AI.
Yeah.
Which is made this issue in particular a little bit more complicated. You now have technology that can take your likeness, especially if you not only have a profile picture, but if you have videos available of your face, and the internet knows what your face looks like. It can take that and use it to pretty much do anything.
Yeah.
And I think
big problem.
Yeah. Like today, if anybody's on Instagram, right? I have an Instagram account for the business. Just a quick plug at ZahraHassanCoaching.com. If you haven't follow it. It helps. But so I'm on Instagram, and if you take a look at what's on the feed, you see a lot of those AI videos of like these, I don't know what they're called, like countries as princesses, princes. Countries as bodyguards, different kinds of animals. You've seen those. Have you seen those?
Countries as princesses, bodyguards, and animals?
Yeah, just
like actual countries?
Well, yeah, they conceptualize different countries.
What's that word? Is it amorphize or?
Animorphs.
No.
Okay.
No, I forgot what it's called.
Okay.
It starts with an A, though.
I know the way you're talking about. We'll think of it at some point. But the one where, for example, they'll make America come as an eagle.
Yeah.
And they usually make France come as a hawk. Like you can tell that I've watched way too many of these. So they'll often make Canada come as a moose, etc. So you get the idea. Or these days they have Disney princesses as different modalities. Those AI videos. So far they're pretty benign. Right, they're pretty benign. I shudder to think what those are going to look like in 4 or 5 years.
I mean, they've already got some really good AI video technology.
Of the deep fakes and etc.
Yeah, they have people walking realistically now.
Yeah, and we might think that we are immune to these things because we are just private citizens, or somewhat private citizens. As private as you can be with the advent of social media. But given, and we don't really like to talk politics, but given the political climate, it's easy to see how that can be taken advantage of to create evidence that was not there. Does that make sense?
All it really takes is someone who has a crush on you.
Yeah.
Downloading your picture and using it for their purposes.
Now that is terrifying.
That's all it takes.
That's terrifying. So that is just my personal opinion, right? Again, like it's not. I'm in no way a scholar. I'm not a student in knowledge. I'm just a regular person who just happens to be a relationship coach. So my personal opinion that I make for myself is, it's a good idea to be cognizant of what the actual risks can be before you make a decision about anything on the internet, simply because the internet tends to be a permanent place.
Yeah.
And what your presence is going to be like on the internet, because it can have real consequences in both this world and the next world. So that's just social media in general. When it comes to social media and with respect to marriage, if you remember, you and I had a conversation when we got married. When I asked you, tell me how you feel about the different variations for about my social media presence, and how you feel about if I have colleagues or if I have friends who are the opposite gender, who are males, and you told me how you felt. And I remember I told you that that's fine. I completely respect it. And my priority will always be making sure that you're comfortable.
Yeah.
Right. And you told me exactly the same thing. That's the stance that I encourage. Right. I understand that that the people in your life are very important, but it's also important to understand the place in your life that your spouse has, and that their comfort with regards to social media and people of the opposite gender should should take precedence.
Yeah, also it's like a real problem for the family unit
Yeah.
because like you're losing out on so much
Yeah.
if you constantly post your picture every single day or every single week as time goes on. Like whatever happened to the family reunions, the meetings where your aunt would come up to you and go, "Oh my God, look how much you've grown." That goes away when she sees you every day.
Yeah.
She's not gonna notice the small changes.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, you're gonna miss out on all those cheek
So
pinches.
people should delete their profile picture and make it a surprise. Be like, "Oh yeah, you weren't expecting me to be this buff now."
Yeah.
You know, look at this. I gained so much muscle mass.
Yeah. Surprise.
And they're going to be like, "Oh my God, you're so buff."
Yeah. Exactly. These are the changes. I mean, you want to surprise your aunties.
Yeah.
That's definitely an important point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Though there are going to be some people.
Yeah.
When they go to the family reunion.
Yeah.
Everyone's just going to be like, "Ugh, what's wrong with your face?"
I think you're gonna end up putting that on a shirt. I think
Call
that's
back
where
number
that's going.
15.
There you go. Is there a number you're trying to get to?
No, I'm just trying to make it my catchphrase.
It's working. So that's we have gone through this topic and again in a lot more detail in, I think it was the 4th or 5th episode, where we talk about social media and marriage, right? For both with respect to the talking stage and how it's useful for you in the talking stage in assessing potentials, and with respect to marriage and how to approach this topic in marriage in a lot more detail.
Yeah.
But again, this particular question was a question about autonomy more than social media. And when it comes to autonomy, the way that like you have to make a decision for, like, I'm not in a position to pass judgment on anybody, but as advice, because that's literally what we do, is we give advice. My advice is to fall back on what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us that your husband has the right of obedience.
Yeah.
So you have to choose your husband carefully in the first place.
You have to obede.
Obede, yes, absolutely. And yeah, but if it is an issue about social media, again, that's a decision you're going to have to make for yourself. We talked about some of the risks here in dunya and in akhirah, but you weigh that against what you think is best and make your own decision accordingly. Yeah. So but definitely social media can be an asset, and I hope that we are able to develop as an ummah social media resources one day, In Shaa Allah, that will allow us to have a much greater impact with regards to our brothers and sisters and making sure that people are kept safe.
Literally.
I think that's as vague as I can be with it. I think that's the way that I can say what we're trying to say while still being vague. Do you have is there anything that we should add to that?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
There was this riddle or joke I wanted to run by you. Ask you if it was so what is an Indian man's male child called?
A son?
A desi son.
What's a decision?
A decision.
A decision? Okay. All right. That's I like that. I like that. Did you make that
It was
up?
a stretch.
It was a little bit of
Yeah, I got it from when you said decision earlier.
Is that where it's from?
Yeah.
All right. But I like it. I could see you thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew something was coming.
The cogs were turning.
They were literally turning.
Yeah.
But hopefully,
sorry, there's some spider webs in it.
Hopefully we were able to cover this young lady's question, In Shaa Allah. So as we read, she did end up removing it according to the post.
Mm-hmm.
But hopefully, yeah,
it was
that
the right
answers
decision.
the question. Yeah. It was the right decision. I would have probably made the same decision, but people make the decisions that's right for them. Yeah. I don't like to.
Well, that was the right decision for them.
Okay.
I mean, objectively speaking, that was the correct decision for her.
See, this is why I like the fact that both of us are on the podcast, because you take the stance of, listen, this is right and this is wrong, and that's all there is to it. And the way that I think about things is always within the full context.
Yeah.
And I always think that the individual is the one who has the information to be able to make those decisions. And I don't like to impose on them.
Yeah, but with the information that she gave me, like, keep in mind, she was the author of the post.
Yes, absolutely.
If she wanted to share other information that could have swayed our minds, it probably wouldn't have. She could put that advice forward. She could put that in the text.
Yeah.
But with the information that I have, she 100% made the correct decision.
Well, I'm glad you're on board.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're on board. I think we agree. And I would have done the same thing. That's the closest that I will say.
Yeah.
So if you have made it this long, we really appreciate you choosing to spend this time with us. Jazaa K'Allah Khayr. If we have said anything useful, by some miracle in this podcast episode or in any other podcast episode, please subscribe to our channel on YouTube. It really helps. If you're a young woman and you are looking for your husband, and you are in that searching process and you would like some guidance on how to assess compatibility, because like I said, you have to choose very carefully. I offer a free compatibility guide that can be downloaded in the link in the description. You can also find it on my Instagram page at ZahraHassanCoaching.com. At Zahra Hassan Coaching. And I think those are all the plugs. We're done?
Yeah.
Okay.
It is ZahraHassanCoaching.com though, isn't it?
No, that's that's for the email. There is a website. It is coming.
Oh, is it a YouTube channel called Zahra Hassan Coaching?
No, the YouTube channel is called the Muslim Marriage Podcast.
That's what I'm thinking. Like, where is Zahra Hassan Coaching from?
That's from the email.
Yeah, but then it's .com.
Yes, it's support at ZahraHassanCoaching.com.
There you go. Yeah, say the .com.
Okay.
It matters.
It does
People
matter.
will say .ca or .uk or .fr.
No, it's .com. It's .com.
Like Akimbuwala, for example.
All right.
You know? He might say .Nigeria or something.
Oh, yeah, and I think it is. But no. No, but for Instagram, it's different. There's no .com.
Oh, it's on Instagram.
Yeah, so on Instagram, it's at Zahra Hassan Coaching.
Gotcha.
There we go. So
you can tell I don't use Instagram.
That's why I married you.
Yeah.
All right. So the Jazaa K'Allah Khayr. We wish everybody a great rest of your weekend, and we'll see you next time. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.